now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lasso versus Kozlowski, step forward, please.
Lucille Lasso is suing her son-in-law, project manager Jeff Kozlowski, for an unpaid loan to build a fence. Jeff says the money was a gift to him and his wife.
Miss Lasso, the defendant is your son-in-law.
Right.
And I assume that this is your daughter. Is that right?
Correct.
Is this also a daughter?
Yes.
According to your complaint, you made a loan to your son-in-law and your daughter in the amount of $1,000. You made that loan about a year ago, and it was for them to be able to put a fence around their swimming pool. Mr. Kozlowski says that there was no loan, that this was a gift, that you made the gift not only to them, but to other of your children in the same amount of money, and that the only time that it became a loan was when the family had a falling out. Is that right, sir?
That's very accurate.
Okay. So when did you write a check or hand them the $1,000?
On 7th month, on the 13th, 02.
And tell me how that came about, Mrs. Lasso.
Debbie,
Your daughter.
my daughter, she asked me if they had put up a pool and she wanted to put a fence up. But I told her, because I had been giving money to my son, I bought him a car. I moved my daughter out here from Chicago, and I told her I was using too much money and that I would loan her the $1,000, but I wanted it back within a year. And the three of us were in his kitchen, and it was quite clear. I said in front of them, this money I want back because I have been spending too much.
You said you gave your son money to buy a car.
Right.
How much did you give your son to buy the car?
$3,500.
And how much of the $3,500 has he paid you back?
$1,000.
When was the last time you received a payment from your son?
Oh, I'd say 5-6 months ago.
Prior to July 13th, how much money had you given your daughter and son-in-law?
Didn't I keep it? I gave them a lot of money. Well, they did a lot for me. I loved them to death. And when they needed something, if I needed something, it was mutual. One hand washed the other.
What kind of work did they do for you?
He put a patio in for me. She did all my gardening.
And how much did you pay them for that?
I paid them in buying things.
Like what?
He put my patio...
Like what?
I'm telling you.
He put your patio in, and what did you...
Put my patio. I bought him a guitar for $400.
Guitar for $400.
And we would go shopping.
Patio. Okay, go ahead.
To put it in.
All right. I'm getting the picture. Now, what happened between your daughter and you after July?
I moved my daughter out here, and she did not like that.
Who did not like that?
Debbie did not like that. She became very hateful, very belligerent, and we had a big fight. In fact, she put a restraining order against Julie, and she did nothing. And she lied. And she filed it in behalf of me, which I had nothing to do with. So when I went
She filed it on behalf of you?
Yes. She came to my house, and I said, "You did what?" I said, "Get out of my house. That's it. I will never give you another penny." So we went to court, and she has the paper that she filed, and none of it is true. None of it.
Okay, so you had a big fight with your daughter. And what month was that, would you say?
August she filed it.
Well, we're talking about now over a year ago. When did you decide to get this money from her?
They stashed a pool, an old rusty pool, under my deck. So my son offered to come over and help Mr. Kozlowski take the pool out from under my deck because it was no good, it was garbage.
Yes.
So my daughter-in-law walked across the street and asked Jeff if he would help my son move the pool out from under my deck. And he said, "No, I'll never do anything over there."
This was after you told your daughter that you were angry and that she was never going to get another penny from you.
Oh, that was before that. This was later.
This was before.
This was almost a year later. We
Why
didn't
did
talk for, we haven't talked for 14 months.
I got it.
And when we do, it's something sarcastic or something.
I'm asking you when this business about the rusty old pool took place.
That was right before I filed the paper.
Recently?
August.
Recently?
Recently.
And after he said he's not moving the pool, then you filed this
All right,
paper.
correct. And then I asked her, "Are you ever going to start paying me for that fence?" Because it had already been a year. And she says, "No, prove it."
Okay, now I'll hear you. Go ahead.
My mother-in-law came over to our house and sat in our kitchen, gave us $1,000, actually gave my wife $1,000, and the check was made out to me, and because I was going to the bank that day. That's why I'm here. This is pretty much between the words loan, borrow, pay me back were never uttered at that time.
Well, tell me about it, Ms. Kozlowski. Tell me about this $1,000.
Well, she gave me $1,000. She also gave, and the $3,500 for the car has nothing to do with this. She also gave my brother another $1,000, and she gave my niece, her granddaughter, $1,000, all within the same 2 months, as gifts. There was no loan or anything ever mentioned.
Shh. That's a conclusion. That's for me to decide. Tell me about the day when she gave your brother the check.
I asked her, or I don't recall exactly why, but she said she was giving it to him because of all the work that he'd done around her house, and it was just because he was low on money, and he opted to use that as a mortgage payment, and I opted to use it for a fence.
Ms. Lasso, I have to make a judgment as to whether or not I believe that when you gave your daughter this, listen to me carefully, that when you gave your daughter this money, this $1,000 check, you anticipated its return and that there was a clear understanding between you and your daughter and son-in-law that this was a loan.
Yes, ma'am.
And I find that it was not a loan. I find that it was a gift that you made, and that your argument with your daughter and son-in-law, which escalated into a Cold War, unfortunately, between the three of you, ultimately reached its crescendo when your son-in-law was asked to get rid of this pool that was stored, and he said he's not helping. And it was shortly thereafter that you decided you were going to file a lawsuit against them for $1,000. All I want to know is, do you have a check there?
Yes,
Is your
ma'am.
canceled check
I didn't
on it?
write.
Shh.
Okay.
Does your canceled check say loan or
No.
anything that would suggest a memorandum that the money was going to be returned?
No.
When you gave your son $1,000, was there anything on his check that indicated gift or loan?
No. This was strictly
So you may be angry with your daughter. That doesn't mean lawsuit. That doesn't mean case. Your case is dismissed.
Ma'am,
It was a gift.
Can
That's
I
all.
say something?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, we know who's lying here, don't we? Go ahead,
always
Ms. Meyer.
86 on the calendar, matter of Simon versus Smith. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, folks.
Miss Simon, you hired the defendant to house sit for you when you were going away on vacation. You also
Right.
have pets, is that right?
Right.
And you had never used her services before, but she came highly recommended from somebody else.
Right.
It is your claim that while you were away, she allowed unauthorized people in the home.
Correct.
When you came home, you paid her.
Right.
And within a day or so of your arriving home, a neighbor told you that there had been people in the house. At that point, you claimed that you went back into the house, you checked around, and you found money that you had left in an unlocked drawer had been taken, $900 in $100 bills.
Correct.
And also that as a result of her allowing unauthorized people in the house, you decided to change the locks. So you are suing her for $1,000, which is for the locks and the $900. Ms. Smith says she did not take your money. She does not know who took your money, if any money was ever there. And she does acknowledge, I believe, that there were people in the house, people or persons in the house, that she had not asked your permission about before you left. Right?
Well, actually, when we were meeting before the job, I had asked if I could have people over, Your Honor.
You say people. She says your boyfriend over. You actually had somebody staying over.
I didn't ask.
That, just a second. Is that right?
Yes, I had
Sleeping
somebody
over.
stay the night.
Right, okay. Which certainly you hadn't discussed with her.
No, not that.
Right, okay. How long have you been doing this kind of work?
Oh, I've been pet sitting for people that I've known for years.
Because you have a counterclaim. After you found this money missing, according to what I read, you stopped payment on her paycheck.
Correct. Yes.
So she's got a counterclaim for her paycheck and bank fees. When you've had people house sit for you before, is that right?
Correct.
When did you leave?
August 31st.
And when did you come home?
We got home about 3:30 on Thursday afternoon on September 11th.
What kind of dogs do you have?
Maltese, 2 boys and a girl.
And you came home and found them in pretty good shape?
They seemed very nervous.
Nervous, whatever. You found them in good shape.
Yes,
I mean, you didn't take them
yes.
to a psychiatrist. They were in
Yeah,
good shape.
yeah.
They were fed, they were okay, they were
Right.
relatively clean.
Right.
All right. Now, when you came home, you paid her, so I assume that the house looked okay to you.
I didn't pay her the day we came home. I paid her on a Saturday.
So I assume that when you came home on Thursday, you looked at your house Thursday, you looked at your house Friday, you looked at your house Saturday morning, everything looked in order, and that's when you paid her.
Yes.
So
with
there
the
was
check.
nothing untoward in your house when you came home.
I wasn't aware of anything until
Fine. Then what happened?
then on Sunday, our neighbor across the street, who I asked to watch the house while we were gone, mentioned to me that the first day that we left, Chauncey had brought a lady with a baby over and stayed overnight there, and also stayed there while she was at work. He also mentioned that there was a lot of cars going in and out of our driveway at our house, and one evening there was about 6 cars out there that I was not aware of, and then I stopped payment on a check on Sunday morning.
Why did you do that?
I stopped payment after I found that the $900 that I had hidden in my desk was missing.
Miss Simon, I want you to prove to me that there was $900 in your desk.
I have some ads here that I advertised a rainbow swing set. That's a very expensive swing set. I started advertising it at $2,800 and ended up advertising it again in Trader Publications 3 different times for $2,300. The third time I advertised it, I sold it. A fellow came to the house, bought it, gave me $1,800 in cash. That was all $100 bills.
Yes, go ahead. I don't have to look at it.
Okay.
And when was that?
And that was the end of May.
Okay, so go ahead.
So I kept the money in my office. We used it as cash here and there. So when we went to the movies, I didn't have to go to the ATM. When I went on vacation, I pulled out $600 of that money and put the $900 back, and I had it in an envelope that was marked. Every time I took money out, I would mark it that I took it out, and I put it back in the office I put it between papers and a whole file system. So this person that took the money, who I think was the person with the baby, had to go through this desk methodically to look for that money. And
Miss Simon, according to Miss Smith, you had certain rooms locked off while she was house sitting.
Yes.
What rooms did you have locked off?
We had the bonus room locked off because
Which one?
The bonus room, because we put our golf clubs in there. I had a bedroom locked up.
Why did you lock up the bedroom?
Because we had painting done, and all our figurines and expensive things were in boxes, and I wanted all that stuff wrapped, all locked up.
That's 2 rooms where you could have put this $900.
Right.
What else was locked up?
A closet in my bedroom.
Why did you lock up your closet?
Because I had my clothes and my jewelry in there.
Then you take out the $900 if you had $900 and you put it in your closet.
I wish I had thought of that, but hadn't.
You can't blame her for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to accuse you of lying to me, but I'm saying to you that if I have cash and I take the trouble to lock up methodically certain rooms in the house for certain things, and don't go into your den, which you leave open, and take out an envelope full of cash, not figurines that you have to pawn, not something else, and put them in your closet along with your jewelry, I find that suspect.
Elmira Simon says pet sitter Chauncey Smith stole money from her home while she was away on vacation.
I don't buy, A, that there was $900 in cash in your desk, and B, even if there was, she's not responsible.
Well, someone had been in that desk.
Well, I have no idea when that happened. Maybe it happened the Friday when you came home. Who is this person here?
This is my husband.
Maybe he took it on Friday. You know, I know you're laughing. I mean, I could make up a whole scenario.
Right.
You know, he's got a 22-year-old girlfriend who flies, and he wanted to give it to us so that they could go to Costa Rica together.
Believe me, I could.
Right, sir? I mean, I could make up a whole litany of stories. She's not the only one who's entitled to the house.
Okay, but believe me, I could kick myself for not thinking about that.
Simon, you got my drift?
Yeah, I got your drift.
You cannot establish the fact that even if you had this $900, that she had anything to do with taking it.
Well,
so therefore...
He saw the money before we left.
Listen to me. He may have seen the money before you left. He took it on Friday.
I think he would have
He took it on Saturday. I have no idea where your money is, if it was there at the beginning. And I tell you this, common sense indicates to me that somebody who's so methodical, who writes down every time they take out, who has an envelope, and on the envelope writes down September 1st took out $100, right? September 15th took out $200. That kind of person who's so methodical and who takes the trouble of locking 3 separate areas in the house doesn't take out this money, especially...
Let me tell you.
No. It's quiet. Especially when you say, you might have said, well, I forgot that I had the money there. That's possible. You know, sometimes listen, I'm speaking. Sometimes I take money and I'll put them in a boot. You know, I'll take a couple $100 or I'll take $20 or $40, put it in a boot for mad money. And then at my age, I forget. So that I forget that it's there. And all of a sudden I go put on a pair of shoes. I can't get my foot in the shoes. And it's because so if you said to me, I had the money in my desk drawer and I forgot. Say, well, you know, that's possible to have money in your desk drawer and forget about it. But that's not what you said. You said you went there right before you went on vacation and took out $600 to go with you on vacation. When you take out the envelope, you say, I have a locked room downstairs, I have a locked bedroom, and I have a locked closet. So I'm going to take the rest of this money, the rest of this $900, and I'm locking it up. Your lawsuit's dismissed. Now, let me get to your counterclaim.
All right.
You got it. You got it. She had absolutely no right to put a stop payment on your check. Absolutely none. You shouldn't have had people over at the house. Whether you had people over at the house, shouldn't have done it.
Absolutely.
But there is no indication that having those people over at the house caused any damage to the house. The house looked perfect to her when she came home. She lived there 3 days, and then she came and paid you. And the dogs looked fine. So she had no basis to put a stop payment on your check, which was $335 on the counterclaim. Judgment for the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think that the girl she had in the house with the baby took the money because she was in that house by herself.
In hindsight, maybe it wasn't the best decision, but I've pet sat before, but they're for people I know.
She had to go through my master bedroom to find out that my closet was locked. I mean, how would she know that unless she walked in there?
She told me before she left that she was locking the bedrooms. That's how I knew that they were locked.
I should have locked it up like I locked everything else up.
I'm sticking with pet sitting for people that I know and that I trust.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Young versus Page. Step forward, please.
Baker Vicki Young is suing her ex-boyfriend, machinist David Page, for the return of personal property and mental anguish. David is countersuing, also for the return of property and for defamation of character.
Miss Young, I gather from your complaint that you and the defendant lived together for 15 or 16 years.
Yes.
You have no children together?
No.
But you had 3 children from previous marriage who, according to Mr. Page, he supported during those 15 years because you were not receiving child support, and he took care of you as a family. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
This is your complaint. Your complaint says that there came a time when you had an argument. According to you, he accused you of cheating. According to him, it was something else, and that you were jealous and he couldn't take it anymore. He locked you out of the house, and you claim that he has certain property that is rightfully yours that he will not let you get. So that's what your lawsuit is about.
Yes.
Correct? And you're also suing for mental anguish. I'm not interested in you. If you had enough of him, you should have left him before. You don't get compensated for mental anguish. If he wasn't good to you, you should have packed up your bag and left. Got it?
Right.
Mr. Page says, on the other hand, that you took property from him that you were not entitled to take. He doesn't have any property that belongs to you, and that you defamed his character. He's going to tell me about that, and he wants to be compensated. So when and under what circumstances did you leave it's not the marital home, the cohabitation home, for want of a better word?
August 21st, and it was a Friday morning, about 4:30 in the morning.
So what happened on August 21st?
He was mad at me. I was in bed. He had gotten up, took a shower, came back, and put his forearm down on my neck, pushed my face down into the pillow, and I couldn't breathe, so I had to move the pillow. And he told me that I was out cheating on him the night before, and that he wanted me out, and he wanted me to bring the dogs to the pound. So that day is when I moved, and he pulled my hair a couple times.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What do you want to tell me, sir?
Basically, you're making it sound like this was just a sudden thing. We had problems in the relationship for a long time.
Listen to me. Not Oprah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Vicki Young says ex-boyfriend David Page attacked her and then kicked her out of their home. David says her story is false, and he's countersuing for defamation of character.
What items do you claim are in the house that belong to you?
Well, a bike jack is one of them. And,
A bike jack?
Yeah.
Do you have her bike jack?
She is in possession of that. That was in the storage unit.
Okay. What's next?
The printer and the fax machine.
Printer and fax machine.
Yes, I do have that.
Okay, printer and fax machine. She's going to pick that up.
Okay.
Okay, what else?
He does have my truck key. I've asked for my truck
Truck key?
Yeah, the key
You have
to
her
my
truck key?
Yes, I do, and she also has a spare key and remote control for my truck.
Okay, will you return that
Yeah.
to him? Perfect. Could you give that to him, please? And do you have her truck key?
Yes, I do.
Here we go. This is so easy. Not even breaking a sweat. Have a sense, Mr. Page, you're just happy to have it over. The exchanging of the keys.
Phew.
What else?
That's the only thing I have proof of. Actually.
Perfect. Now, Mr. Page, what do you want to tell me, sir?
Basically, you're making it sound like this was just a sudden thing. We had problems in the relationship for a long time.
Listen to me. Not Oprah. Got it?
Okay, what would you like me to...
I would like to know about your lawsuit, sir.
Okay.
You have a counterclaim.
Yes, when...
You want to tell somebody about your relationship? You go on Oprah.
When she moved out, she moved in with a friend of hers, and I had tried contacting her about some mutual property, and next thing I knew, I was getting a stalking petition against me.
What happened to that stalking petition?
I went to court for it, and her friend never showed up, so it was dismissed from court.
What do you mean her friend? What her friend?
It's her friend she was staying with. She's the one that pulled the stalking order.
Well, then,
Okay.
that's not defamation that you can attribute to her.
Well, basically, what happened after that, once this got thrown out of court, the police department at home had told me to try to contact her before going to small claims court about the storage unit. So I tried calling her twice at work after this stalking petition was over, and next thing I know, 2 days later, I get a restraining order. And this time it was her that filed it.
Can I see it?
Yes, you can.
Do you have a copy of the petition that she filed, sir? What charges she made against you?
Yes, basically it's what she had told you, that I had put my arm on her neck. But this was a month and a half later that she filed this restraining order. The day previous to her filing
Okay, I got it. What took you so long?
My friend had filed for the restraining order because he was calling her in 6 in the
I'm not
morning.
interested in your friend. I'm interested in...
Well, I was included on that restraining order, that's why. When she went and filed it, she asked if everybody in the family was included or in her house, and they said yes, so I was included. When she had problems at home with her family and stuff, that she couldn't go to the court date, so it was dismissed. So that's when I filed, because after that he kept calling me at work and harassing people at my work.
Have anything else you want to tell me?
Well, yes, the money I had paid on that storage unit, she locked me out of the unit right after I paid for another month on that storage unit, where I couldn't get a hold of my property out of that unit.
So?
I had some weightlifting equipment that was worth money in there.
Where is it?
Right now it's still in the unit because she only gave me 2 days to get it out once she switched it back to give me access to the unit on October 28th.
So now you have it. You have access to the unit so you can get your
No,
weight
I don't,
stuff
because
out?
she never paid for the other month on that unit. Now I would have to go in and pay another month on that unit to get my property, which I had paid on that unit in September.
How much money are we talking about, sir, for the month?
$68 a month.
$68. After 16 years, $68 is what it's about?
No, actually, I earned 3/4 of the income during that time. I raised her children.
You're
for all
absolutely
those
right.
years.
I just really want to know if you want me to bother with the $68.
Well, the $68, like I said, that's only a petty thing because that's what I had paid.
It is petty. I'm glad you say it's petty. It is petty. You want me to bother with the $68? Did you lock him out of the storage unit?
I did at one point because...
Good. And it's going to cost you $68. On your complaint, you get the printer and the fax to be delivered in a box 5 days. She'll come and pick it up, or she'll come with a police officer to pick it up. How do you want her to deal with that?
He can bring it to my son's house. He knows where they live. He's been...
Is that good?
Okay, yeah.
Fine. Good. Printer and the fax, and you owe him $68 for the storage unit that you locked him out of. That's all. And then he can go pay for the $68 and get his weightlifting equipment. Good. Goodbye. Good luck. Have a happy life.
3 on the calendar in the matter of Tippett versus Coleman. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Tippett, according to what I've read, you met the defendant in some sort of a chat place on the internet.
Correct.
And then there came a time when you moved into her home.
That's correct.
And it is your claim that she kept and or sold some of your personal property when she locked you out of the house at some point after an altercation.
That's correct.
Ms. Coleman says that she has none of your personal property, that you were abusive to her, that you choked her, were assaultive. That's the reason you were locked out of the house. And that you did have certain property there, some of which you took, and the rest of it she tried to get you to come and get several times. You didn't come and get the property. She put it out and she disposed of it. She's counterclaiming for the assault. She's counterclaiming for some rent that she says you owe her, and for storage fees for storing the property that you left behind. That's nonsense.
Right.
You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. When did you move in with her and why, Mr. Tippett?
I moved in on April 7th of this year, 2003. The reason I moved in with her is I was going to be homeless or having to move back in with my mother in Atlanta, Georgia.
Why?
For being unemployed for an extended period of time, and I was writing a book.
Is what you're telling me is that you planned on moving in with Miss Coleman and not paying any money to her?
There was an arrangement for me to pay weekly $70.
Did you have your own room?
No, I slept on the sofa in the living room.
Okay. So now you're living there and you move in on the 7th of April.
Correct.
2003. When did you move out?
Well, I left on the 30th of August. I didn't move on the 30th of August. I was not allowed to get anything.
Well, why don't you tell me what happened?
On the 29th of August, I went out to get some dinner, and when I returned around 8:30, 8:45, the door had been deadbolted from the inside. I knocked on the door, spent 30 minutes outside using cell phone, calling 911 to get assistance to have her open the door to let me in. She refused to open the door, and she refused to open the door because she said I owed her $30, and I had paid her $40 cash that Friday, and the $30 that I did not pay her, I explained to her, was because I had spent $20 filling her car up with gas that Monday, and twice during the week when she had no money, I had loaned her $5 each time for lunch at work. So the reason she barred the door and was not going to let me back in was because I owed her $30.
Did you get any of your property at any time after August 30th?
Well, I stayed the night after the police came and were called after I kicked the door in.
Oh, so you kicked the door in?
Well, I kicked it once and the door opened and it shattered the door jamb. So yes, I kicked the door in.
Were the police with you when you kicked the door in?
Were the police what?
With you?
No.
Well, what happened when you kicked the door in?
Well, I had a burrito that had been going cold for about an hour. I sat down on the sofa and ate it.
What'd she do when you kicked the door in?
She called the police, and I sat and waited and let her know when the police had arrived, and we talked to the police when I got there.
And you stayed the night that night? Is that right?
Yes, I did.
And you left the next day?
Left the next day.
What did you leave?
I left everything.
Like what's everything?
All of my computer, my bed, most of my clothing, every belonging that I had other than what I could carry in my arms.
Did you ever get your computer?
No, I did not.
Where's his computer?
I had to sell it to pay for glasses after 3 weeks of him not coming back to get it, and I had to have glasses for work, and I had no money to pay for it. That he broke.
How much did you get for
I got
the computer?
$150, and I brought.
What else did you sell?
That's all I sold.
Where's his bed?
The bed is at my apartment. He gave me the bed before he moved in because mine was too short for him to sleep on, and he didn't have a place to store mine.
I thought he was sleeping on the sofa.
He didn't want to sleep on the sofa after he moved in. He wanted me to sleep on the sofa because he worked harder than I did, and the sofa was too short for him.
Did he come back to the house with a police officer to get his other property?
No, we tried to get him to. The lieutenant that investigated the case and he was supposed to have taken his stuff the day he assaulted me. He would not make an effort.
I want you to tell me about the assault, Ms. Coleman.
Okay.
He kicked in the door.
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened when he kicked in the door?
He took my cell phone and the home phones and kept them to himself that night so that I could not call the police. This was after the door had been broken down, and it took him 30 minutes to knock down that door with a deadbolt on. It wasn't just one time. He kicked it all, and all the neighbors called the cops. I had 5 sets.
Why had you locked him out?
Because he would not pay rent. I told him the only way you're going to stay with me is if we get your own room, and your name is going to go on the lease, so you're obligated to pay the rent. he would not do that. He said he wasn't going to pay me rent, he wasn't going to pay anything, that I could get a 2-bedroom, but I could pay for it myself. And I had gone to work. He had a job, but he quit it because he didn't want to work. He wanted to write his book, and he wanted me to support him while he did that.
What was the entire rent on the apartment?
$589 actually a month.
That includes all the utilities?
No, ma'am. He had to have cable TV, so we had the cable TV. We had electric. We had phone that he called his mother on. Also, when he moved in, he agreed to go to work and pay me rent. After a month, I had to make him go to work. I called the cops. I wanted him to leave. He would not leave. He said he refused to leave.
Robert Tippett says ex-roommate Sally Coleman owes for the return of his belongings. Sally says she kicked him out because he tried to choke her.
Mr. Tippett, I'm not buying it, sir. Not buying it. You kicked in the door. Who did you expect to pay for the door?
Oh, I was quite prepared to pay for the door.
Good, you just did with your computer.
What?
You just did with your computer. Paid for the door that you kicked in.
And also my glasses that he broke during the assault.
Well, tell me about the assault. When was this assault? As far as I heard, he broke down the door and came in and sat down on the couch and ate a burrito.
Right. He told the police that he would leave the next morning. He agreed to. I knew he had a paycheck in his pocket, which he wouldn't share with me as usual. And he said he would get all of his stuff the next morning. It was like 11 o'clock the next morning. He still was making no effort to leave. I started putting his stuff on the couch. I said, okay, get your stuff. Get out of my house. He wouldn't make any effort. So I started to take his stuff out and put it on the porch. He grabbed me by the hair, slung me around, slung me on the floor, put his arm around my neck, tried to choke me until I almost fainted. Then he pulled me up off the floor by the hair on the back of my head and told me he was going to kill me for what I'd done to him.
Is that right, Mr. Tippett?
No, that's complete fabrication, Your Honor.
Really? I mean, none of this happened.
I had
Your
a
Honor,
police
this
report.
woman is a liar, and she has a history of doing things that prove that she's a liar.
Mr. Tippett,
As this evidence shows right here that
Sure,
I
let me
owed her
see.
nothing. This is where I went down and paid the Fort Worth court $309.98 just a couple of weeks before this event even occurred.
Yes.
That's why she had no money, and I loaned
For
her
what?
$10.
For what?
That was my...
That was for writing bad checks, and she called me several times during the day on that day and said that she was going to be arrested for not being able to pay that $309.98.
That was my money. He got my paycheck and took it down there to pay because he
That's a
wasn't
lie,
working,
Your Honor.
and I couldn't
That's
get
a
off
lie.
work to go.
That is a receipt that has my name on it.
I know it has your name on it. She said it was her money. Where'd you get $309.98 from?
That was money that I had
From where?
from work.
What work? You told me you didn't have a job.
I never told you that. I was an independent contractor for a local courier service in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I worked it was 5 to 6 days a week from 8 till 5.
Mr. Tippett, Mr. Tippett, don't think so. Who are you?
A friend of Robert's.
Is he living with you now?
No.
Good.
I have a...
Shh. Stand up. How long have you been his friend?
Since September, the mid-September of this year.
Of this year?
Correct.
Oh, then you know nothing.
Okay.
Sit down. Except for one thing. How many days a week was he working starting in mid-September?
He started work in, I think it was right at the beginning of October.
Thank you. Sit down.
You're welcome.
Happy. Your computer paid for the kick-down door. Listen to me very carefully. Is he out of your life?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you change the
Thank you.
locks?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Goodbye. Have a happy life. Don't take anybody into your home that you
Right.
met on the internet. You understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Goodbye. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was so hostile to me that I couldn't stand to leave. I was afraid of him.
That's total fabrication.
The final straw was when he kicked down my door and assaulted me.
I kicked the door in. That's all I did.
Live by myself the rest of my life.
Get a dog.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Balloonist versus White. Step forward, please.
Executive search consultant David Ballounis is suing his former employee, 23-year-old waitress Erin White, for an unpaid loan to buy a car. Erin says David gave her the money with the hopes of having a relationship.
Mr. Ballounis, you claim a loan to the defendant for a car.
Correct.
And she said there was never a loan, that you made a gift to her of this money for the car. And in addition to that, she says that she did some work for you. How do you know her?
We had met when I was working on one of my rental properties. Erin approached me and asked if she could help out
on some of the properties in order to supplement her income.
Help out doing what?
Painting, cleaning, wallpapering.
What kind of rental properties do you have?
I have townhomes, condominiums, and some single-family homes.
And did she do any work for you?
Yes, she did.
When did she start to do work for you?
She began work someplace in the neighborhood of 7903.
Tell me about the car loan.
The car loan is something that she requested of me. I know she had a difficult time getting around town, and she first approached me and asked for a loan for $2,000, saying she didn't have quite enough to be able to buy the car. And then in the next conversation, she came to the office and said, "Can you make it $2,500?"
And when was that, sir?
That was the day that I wrote the check, which would have been August the 21st of this year.
So she had already been doing work for you since July.
Correct.
And been paid.
Correct.
So you gave her a check for $2,500. What was the agreement as far as repayment?
A repayment I had actually, because Erin, at least at that time, said she was interested in doing more work. I thought my downside risk was somewhat limited, and she seemed like a reasonable person. So I had her sign a promissory note as well as an amortization schedule.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
Okay.
May I also see that, please?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
On the money that I had borrowed from Mr. Blennis, there was a period of time that was for about a week and a half before I had asked for the money from him, which I was not paid. When I had gone back through, recaulked things, done my final cleaning, I had waxed down the cabinets, scrubbed the hardwood floors, which was, I feel, as far as $2,500 was payment for the work that I had done that week.
I didn't understand the word you just said. Is what you're trying to tell me?
As far as the
I'm speaking.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
A loan, as far as me working it off or me giving him, is the same thing.
No, that's
yes,
not
it
true.
is. Well, to me,
No,
it
no,
is. Yes.
No, no, no.
Yes.
Dear, listen to me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Baluna says former employee Erin White owes for an unpaid car loan. Erin says David was trying to buy her affections.
Ms. White, is what you're telling me that after you received this loan, which you now acknowledge was a loan, is that right?
As far as a loan, yes. You asked me a question.
No, I
Was
didn't
it a
ask you.
loan?
No, listen to me. Listen to me. Miss White, what happened was you said, "May I see that?"
Correct.
And I said, "Yes." And I handed it to you, and then you started to speak. I didn't ask you any question at all. But since you did volunteer to speak,
okay,
I want to try to understand what you're telling me now.
Okay.
You did use the word when I took the loan from Mr. Balunas
Right.
for $2,500. I then went back to the condominiums and did some caulking and did some cleaning down of cabinets and did some polishing, and that was to be used towards this $2,500 loan?
No, ma'am.
Oh, well, then you want to explain it to me?
Okay.
Let's start out with, there was therefore, Bert, can I have that?
Sure.
There was, therefore, a loan for $2,500.
Correct.
Good. Now, I say this because I've read your answer very carefully that you swore to.
Right.
And in your answer, you never say that there was a loan. In your answer, you say, the money the plaintiff is asking for is money he willingly gave me to buy a car. I compensated him through work that I did. And then, of course, you say that the reason he gave you this money was because he wanted more of a social relationship than anything else. That's what you also claim in here. But nothing in here, you don't acknowledge a loan in any way.
May I speak?
And you also say here, I never signed an agreement to pay him anything.
Okay, may I speak now to try to counteract with what you're saying? The paper that I signed, if it was a loan or not, a loan may mean advancement of either the money as far as I can work off to pay you back the loan, or I can give you money for back the loan. As far as me working it off or me giving him, it's the same thing.
No, that's
yes,
not
it
true.
is. Well, to me,
No,
it
no,
is. Yes.
No, no, no.
Yes.
Dear, listen to me. If you sign an agreement that gives you a loan schedule, then what you do is have an accounting of, well, after I took out this loan and the September payment was due, I didn't give him a September payment, but I did caulking, painting, papering in the amount of $570. deducting that from the loan. You sign it, he signs it, and you deduct it.
But that's not what that was.
Well, then now you can explain it.
Okay. The money, I had asked Mr. Blennis for a loan, but prior to when he gave me the loan, there was a period of time which he hadn't paid me. I have two of my checks. He would give me pay stubs. You know, I would get copies of the checks every time I cashed them, but I had never gotten from that week. And for about a week, he was paying me around $600 a week.
Ms. White,
to
is
do my
what you're
work.
suggesting to me that before he gave you this money, you had worked for him and he hadn't compensated you?
Right.
That's bull.
Whatever.
Because you are an intelligent, articulate woman. And as an intelligent, articulate woman, you would never have signed a loan agreement that said that you owed him this money plus 8% interest. You would have said, well, before I'm speaking, before I sign this, let's deduct what you owe me. So instead of $2,500, I worked for you for this week and that week, and you hadn't paid me, so that I only owe you $1,600. And you would not have signed a payment schedule for him.
I didn't know that's what I signed. I was in a hurry to leave, so I kind of just ran through and signed my name on the things, knowing that I was going to work off the money to him.
Is this a witness for anything?
Yes.
To what?
To the fact that he knows how many times I tried to contact Mr. Blennis, I could get no answer. The lady that rents from Mr. Blennis...
Just contact him for what?
He says I've had a hard time getting... that I never called him back. I did try to call him back. I left messages with his office. I mean, I can't go pay off the money.
For what? You didn't say anything about not calling him back.
But I'm supposed to be in... This was my only means of money at that time. I had no job but him. So how
then what you're telling... Listen to me.
Other than by my labor?
You don't want to say anything, do you?
Well...
You want to say...
Yeah,
listen, you want to say something? Are you sure you want to say something?
Possibly.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make the statement that she was supposed to my knowledge, was supposed to work off the money that he gave her. It was supposed to be in where he loaned her the money and she did work for his company, and they was going to deduct that from the payment.
Thank you very much. Sit down.
All right.
May I say something else?
Let me explain something to you, sir. That's not what she just told me. What she just told me was that she had already worked for him and he hadn't paid her.
That's also it.
Just a second. She had already done work for him and he hadn't paid her. And a big chunk of this money was for money that he already owed her. Are you following me?
I'm following you. It was supposed
Good!
Well, you don't have to scream. I'm just saying.
Well, I don't know why you're here.
Well, cause I'm being a witness, that's why.
Well, you have nothing important to say.
Okay,
Judgment for
what
the
else?
plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. Pay your bills.
Parties are excused. 7 on the calendar in the matter of Garner versus Carr. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Garner, the defendant is your sister. Is
Yes,
that right?
ma'am.
And according to what I read, your sister sold you some sort of a exercise set.
A weight machine that wasn't all there, Your Honor.
She sold you a weight set.
Yes.
It was a used weight set.
Yes, ma'am.
She sold it to you for $200.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you eventually put it all together, you found, according to you, pieces missing. You want to return the weight set to your sister and get your money back.
Correct.
Not only do you want your $200 back that you paid for it, but you want an additional $1,300 for your mental distress. Your sister says that you had the weight set for a long time. You bought it as is, and she's not giving you your money back. Anybody have a picture of this weight set?
I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it, please.
I have a picture of the weight machine that we could not put together because all the poles weren't there that hold the weight machine
Listen
together.
to me. You'll have a chance.
Okay.
What does it do?
It's
I'm just looking at this.
absolutely nothing right now because it can't go together. But it's for working out. It has the different...
It's the whole weight machine all around. It's got the biceps.
The home gym.
It's a whole full home gym.
Okay. When did you purchase this?
I believe we purchased it around February. We gave her the money for it.
February of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you take possession of it?
March or April.
March or April.
Was it March or was it April?
We'll say April.
Yeah.
And when did you give her the money for it?
Probably February.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you selling this for any particular reason?
We had a daughter who's in Children's Hospital for a long time, and I wasn't working, so I was pretty much having to sell everything I owned to help him pay the bills while I was staying in Little Rock.
Okay. Who used the weight machine in your house?
Nobody. It was in a storage building.
How long had it been in storage?
About 2 years.
Was it in a box or was it set up?
No, ma'am, it was just in pieces in the storage building.
Is that the way it was when your sister saw it?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
I didn't see it in her storage building until her and I began to load it into the truck ourselves.
But when you saw
the last time I saw it, it was put together in her house in Texas, I believe.
It's a couple of years ago.
Yes, ma'am.
Several.
But when you saw it, when you were purchasing it,
I knew she had the machine. She told me that I could purchase it for $250. I said, well, we'll pay you $200. She said, okay, I need the money. And I never saw it before I told her I'd purchase it. She said it was in the storage. She needed it out. She needed the space. And I said, well, if it's usable, sure, I'll take it for $200.
When did you put it together?
Probably in June.
About June.
We left it in the same position it was when my sister brought it over, because it is a heavy piece of equipment.
Okay.
So we left it in the position in the garage that it was, and all the pieces exactly where they were. And she even came to my house saying, well, they should be there. And I said, no, ma'am. I said, so
Okay,
we
so
all
when you
looked
put it-
throughout the house, and they were not
When you
there.
put it together, you found that there were certain pieces missing.
Correct.
Well, I tried to put it together, and I didn't know how to put it together, so I called her ex-husband. He's put it together about half a dozen times, so I called him. And I said, hey, could you come over and help me put this weight machine together? I had it halfway together. He walked in there and looked and says, hey, man, all the pieces ain't here.
So it wasn't until June that you discovered that all the pieces weren't there.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do when you discovered all the pieces weren't there?
We called her and told her that, hey, do you still have the poles? There was no hostility or anything. We said, there's pieces missing, can you check? Yeah, let me go check the storage, they may still be out there. So we went out there, and I even come to her.
You went?
Well, I called her, and she said.
No, I said, but
they
you went
couldn't
out
find-
with her.
After she couldn't find them. So I said, well, let's dig through. I physically helped her move everything out of her storage building.
And you couldn't find them.
And they were not there. But she had them stored previously at somebody else's house.
Whatever. Did you try to get other poles for the machine?
Well, we thought it would be up to her since she sold it to us, and she said she would get us the parts. And so we said, okay. A few weeks went by. I said, I would casually mention it because it upset her when I talked about it.
Fine.
So
because she probably didn't have the money to give you back the $200.
correct. That's what we figured. So
Fine.
we decided that.
Good. Okay. And it's clear that some of the pieces were missing, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And your position is that she purchased it as is?
Yes. We did not know at the time that the poles were missing, and we offered to buy them.
So why didn't you?
Well, Your Honor, that's where I come in. I told them to email or get in touch with the company, find out how much the poles cost. I would replace them. They come 2 weeks later, said they tried to email the company, and the company would not respond to their email. I had a person I work with email the company because I don't have internet at work.
Okay.
And I got a response the next night.
And the response was?
Model and serial number off of the weight machine.
Okay.
Contacted them, they said there wasn't one. I contacted the company back.
We said we
and
couldn't
told them.
find one, Your Honor.
They said they need pictures of it.
Okay.
I told them to get me pictures of it. I still haven't seen pictures of it.
Your Honor, they decided to get pictures of it after we had already told them, no, we don't want it. Please just give us our money back. They said this after the fact. I called her the last time. I said, Dottie, when are y'all coming out? You know, just being nice about it because I didn't want to flat out say, hey, give me my money back. She said, what are we coming out for? And I said, aren't you going to take pictures of the machine? You said you needed pictures. And she said, no, you guys can do it. And I was like, well, you sold it to us, so I think it should be up to you.
Miss Garner, what you're doing then was being a little stubborn.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm not your psychiatrist and I'm not your family therapist.
If this wasn't family, Your Honor, if she wasn't family, would we not get some kind of something from my son who is upset about this?
Not a farthing.
And later today,
I tried to help my kids out the best I can.
You didn't help them out this time, Miss Morgan. What you did was really give them the short end of the stick. You got the front end of the dog, they got the rear end of the dog.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christina and Ronnie Garner claim Christina's sister Dottie Carr and her husband Richard owe for the cost of an exercise machine and mental distress.
It's a very easy case legally to resolve, but what I'm telling you, between sisters, if you know that her life is not easy, then what you do is if you have a camera or you get a Polaroid or you buy an Instamatic camera for $5 that you can take a picture with and take it and send it to her rather than say to her, why don't you come out because you sold it to us and you sold us.
That was after the fact that we had already told her we didn't want it anymore.
She's your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
So you should have taken.
I did.
Taken the picture.
I told her. I said, okay,
fine. And she said, well, she threw the phone to Richard because I heard it hit, and she said, you talk to her. I'm tired of dealing with it.
Fine.
And this is the whole
Ms.
point
Carr,
where my case
bottom
comes
line,
in, Your Honor.
This is what the law is generally. When you sell a product, unless there is a specific contract in writing that says that you are selling a product as is, it is assumed that the product is fit for the purpose for which it was intended. In this case, a weight machine. You do not have, I assume, a written contract with your sister that says that she purchased this item as is.
No, ma'am.
So that the general rule is that when you sell a weight machine, it's capable of being used as a weight machine, not as a clothes hanger, which most people use their weight machines for anyway after a while. So you get the weight machine back and they get their money back. And your aggravation, you don't get anything for aggravation.
It's not aggravation.
I'm aggravated all the time.
It's over him and our son.
She cussed me up in one side down the other.
In front of my 9-year-old
our
son.
9-year-old son, and she wouldn't even return his calls.
Okay, fine.
And he was very upset with why his Aunt Dottie was acting this way.
Well, then you
towards him.
tell him that his Aunt Dottie, put your hand down. And you tell him that his Aunt Dottie was acting that way because she wasn't being a grown-up and she was,
I did, Your
she was
Honor,
upset.
and he was
but you
very
don't get
still
paid.
upset.
Listen to me. You don't get paid for that in a court. It's unfortunate if that's what happened. It's sad. It's not right. But it doesn't mean that you can sue for it. I'm not your psychiatrist and I'm not your family therapist.
If this wasn't family, Your Honor, if she wasn't family, would we not get some kind of something for my son who is upset about this?
Not farthing.
I would have
not
brought him with
a
me.
sou. Okay. Not a yen. Not a penny. Nothing.
Okay.
But you get your $200 back. And they get the weight machine back.
Okay.
Judgment for the plaintiff.
Your
in the
Honor,
amount
can you
of
make it where they
$200.
come and pick it up themselves? Because we've already delivered it to them one time.
Well,
Your
you
Honor,
put
I
it-
delivered it out there to start with when they purchased
No,
it.
no, sir, you weren't there.
Listen to me. Listen, I have only one question. Do you want it back?
No.
No.
You don't
They
want it
bought
back?
it.
I don't
You
want the
she
weight
said,
machine.
you're going to pay for it anyway. Do you want it back?
No.
No.
You don't
We
want
offered-
it back?
we offered
Fine.
to make
Put
it
it out.
right,
It's
so-
trash. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It could have been taken care of a long time ago and we wouldn't have had to be doing this.
3 weeks, all we kept hearing was, Ronnie's mad, he's gonna sue.
The $1,300 was just to prove to my sister that I meant business.
She drags me thousands of miles away from my 18-month-old daughter on a ventilator. I don't need her in my life.
They needed a vacation anyway.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Morgan versus Morgan, step forward, please.
22-year-old student Victoria Morgan and her husband, Air Force officer Gary Morgan, are suing Gary's mother, office clerk Denise Morgan, for the cost of a car. Denise claims the vehicle was a gift from the couple.
Mr. Morgan, this is your mom
Yes, ma'am.
and your mother-in-law.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Morgan, I'm going to start with you. Your children claim that they were helping you out about 3 years ago because you didn't have a car. And they bought a car for you, and it was their understanding, and you agreed to make all the payments on the car. This was your car. But for some reason, you didn't have enough credit or whatever to get a loan yourself. More recently, within the last few months, your kids needed a new car themselves, and with this loan that they had for you, they were not given a line of credit to purchase a new car for themselves. So they said to you, Mom, could you pay off the car or get the loan in your name because we really need a new car for ourselves? You have children?
2.
So what you did, according to them, was you said, here, take your car back. I just bought myself a new car. So they're stuck with a car that has how many miles on it?
Over 90,000.
There's over $4,000 that's still due and owing on the car, and the car isn't worth that much. So, in effect, your children say that you stiffed them. You tell a different story.
Yes, ma'am.
So the reason I'm coming to you is I want you to tell me your version of the story. Starting in the year 2000, you called your kids and said what?
Then my car had broken down, undrivable to go to work, and then I needed a little bit of help.
You need some help doing what?
I need some help with transportation to work because my car no longer runs. So they took upon themselves to purchase a car, put $500 down on it, so I would have a car for work.
Yes.
Which is very nice, very generous.
How much was the car altogether?
$8,433.15.
And what were the monthly payments?
$178.14.
You made all the payments for 3 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes.
All right, so then what happened?
My children had filed bankruptcy, and that's where they were not able to borrow money from any institution. So they called their mom. Mom, we need your help.
can we borrow, Mom, $4,000 out of your 401k? I tried to explain to them that this is something you do not borrow on. I'm 51 years old. That is my retirement. I am single. I need the money for my future. I said, well, what would it take to get the car off your back? They couldn't borrow money to get another vehicle because the Tracer and their Malibu are already on their credit.
So part of what they say is accurate. The Tracer is the car that you were driving.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But
So
I never
part of the
agreed.
So part of the reason that they couldn't finance another car was because, as you said, the Tracer was on their back.
Right.
So they did ask you to get the Tracer off their back.
They did not at that time.
Did they subsequently ask you to get the Tracer off their back?
They did later.
And what did you say to them?
I said I would look into it.
You said you would look into what? Paying off?
No, I would never pay off the Tracer.
Why not?
It's not my vehicle. I never agreed to buy the car. I never signed any legal document of any kind. So when I got my new car,
Now, just a second. Let's get to the new car. When did you buy a new car?
August 12th.
What kind of car did you buy?
A 91 Solara.
And how much did you pay for it?
$14.99.
And how many miles did it have on it?
34,000.
So you got a much better car because you had already racked up 90,000 miles on the Tracer. Is that
No,
right?
I did not.
How many miles?
Tracer came with $64,000 already on it.
No, it came with how many miles on?
45,000.
45,000 miles. So you already put 45,000 miles on the Tracer. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So after you put on 45,000 miles on the Tracer, you bought a car with 34,000 miles and you paid $1,500 for it.
15,000, I think, Your Honor.
1,500 or 15? You said 14.
For the new car?
Yeah.
$14.99. 15,000.
15,000.
Right.
For a 1991 car?
Yes, ma'am. I'm making payments.
Anything else you want to tell me?
I tried to help my kids out the best I can.
You didn't help them out this time, Miss Morgan. What you did was really give them the short end of the stick. You got the front end of the dog, they got the rear end of the dog. You called, you asked them for help. Your children, who probably don't have a lot of money, put down a down payment on a car. I don't know whether you told her that you were going to do it. Did you?
No, they just drove it down.
We drove it down to her.
Okay, so it was a surprise.
Yes, absolutely. If
it was a surprise, Miss Morgan, is what you're telling me that it was a gift to her?
No, absolutely not. When we got there, my husband made it very clear to her how much we spent. We showed her the contract. She had the contract in her car for 3.5 years with how much we put down. He asked her for that immediately. She said that she would give that back when she could. 3.5 years later, we still haven't gotten it back.
You mean the down payment?
The down payment. And she knew that she was to pay the car
off. So she then agreed
the entire
to make
loan.
the payments
Absolutely.
on the car?
And she did.
And she did for 3 years?
Yes, up until.
Right. And you had the responsibility to continue. And if you wanted to sell the car, you should have spoken to the children and said, listen, I want a better car. I want a car with less mileage on it. I'm going to sell it, even though at this point you probably can't get $4,000 for it unless somebody finds a patsy like you who's going to spend $15,000 on a 13-year-old
I couldn't
car.
pay off the car. It's not in my name. It's in his name.
Just a second. You can pay off the car, just as they accepted your payments every month for the car. They would accept your payoff for the car.
I never intended on paying off that car. Never. When they told me that they wanted me to send them my 401k money, I went and bought myself a car.
Don't you understand what's going on here?
I understand.
They are now stuck with a car that you put 45,000 miles on, and if they turned around to sell it, they cannot get the payoff on the car. What's the blue book on the car? Do you have that?
Yes, I have it right here.
Okay. They're out $2,000, which you would have been out if you went to sell. Clearly, you have a right to be really annoyed at your mother.
Yeah.
Really annoyed. She did the absolute wrong thing. I don't know why she would do something like that. You needed their help 3 years ago. 3 years ago, they came to your aid. You drove a car. You drove it to the ground. And then when they said to you, listen, we need some help now. We need for you to pay off this car or put the loan in your name so that we can buy another car. You turn around and say, here, take the keys on this car that now has almost 100,000 miles on it. I'm going to buy myself a new one. That's absolutely outrageous. How much is left on the car?
Right now we owe $4,050.21 because we're making the payments.
Fine, and the car is worth $2,000, so you could sell it for $2,000.
I got a $1,000 offer on it, and that's the highest we've gotten, so I would like to sell it for that.
Well, I'm sorry, madam. What's the blue book on the car?
It's $21,500, and that's in fair condition.
I don't know. But if that's the blue book on the car, I have to have some measure of value. Because if you had come here, Miss Morgan, and said, I've sold the car for $1,000, that would be your damage.
I have that.
You sold the car for $1,000?
We are pending your approval, yes. I have the money and everything. Here, I have everything.
Let me see.
We have
Let me see the blue book on the car.
We have a family on base in the car.
Listen.
We brought pictures to show you what condition the car's in.
I'd like to see it. This is marked fair condition.
And we did detail the car and all that kind of stuff to make it more sellable.
And you had it for sale for $4,000.
Right, trying to reduce our damages. When we spoke to our lawyer, he told us to put it out for $4,000 because as much as we could get for it would minimize her damages.
Right. I don't buy this, madam, for $1,000. I think you can do better, but I'm going to split the difference with you. I'm going to allow you $1,500 for the car.
Okay.
Good. Which still means that you're going to have a deficit of $2,500, which I'm awarding you on your lawsuit.
Okay.
You did the wrong thing to your children. I'm surprised at you, madam. Shame on you. Shame on you. That's all.
After an all-expense-paid vacation to Mexico, Sandy says the trip ended up costing her thousands. She wants Lizette to pay.
Order. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 345 on the calendar in the matter of Lang versus Guerra. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have seats, please.
This is the case of the free trip that ended up costing you $3,800. Right?
A little more than that.
You, at the time of this whole experience, were dating the plaintiff's brother?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You work in some capacity where you got some free trips to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And you invited your boyfriend.
Yes.
Where is he, by the way?
He's
ex-boyfriend.
Yes. Can I clarify?
His sister-in-law and brother to go along on this totally paid-for trip, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, why don't you tell me what happened when you got there?
It started at the airport. They needed $407.12 for Carlos, her cousin, plane fare. So I put that on my credit card because we were already running late, and she said, I'll take care of it. I'll call Alaskan Airlines.
So Carlos needed $407.
At that point, ma'am, they decided to go ahead and pay for it. I wish they wouldn't have, so I could have...
What were you going to do with Carlos if they didn't pay?
He would have had to probably stay. I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, he would have gone with this. I don't know.
Right. So you took Carlos along, and so far it cost you $407. You're not even in the sun yet.
This is true.
So what happened when you got there?
I went down to the pool and ordered some food and drink, and at that point they said I couldn't charge it to the room. So I said, can you hold it for a minute and I'll go and talk to Lizette. And I went up to her room and she said, I'll take care of it. Go back down and it'll be just fine. I went back down and they said, no, it's not fine. I put it on my card. And the rest of the trip was the same way. Nothing could be
So
charged.
for all the food and drinks, you put on your credit card?
Or paid cash.
Or paid cash. So then what happened?
Okay, came time to leave, and they wouldn't let Bob and Lizette go. They said they had some unresolved payment.
You were stopped at the airport, according to you.
No.
Where were you stopped?
The party left, our group left, and Bob and I were running behind. We went to the taxi. As soon as we sat in a taxi, the security from the hotel came out and said that we had an outstanding balance that we had to take care of. And at that point, we spoke to the manager of the hotel, and he said that, and I explained to him, I said, this is an all-inclusive package. It includes the drinks and everything. Anyhow, he said, no, not at this hotel. It does not. Bob, my ex-boyfriend, has a heart condition. So at that point, that's when I believe Sandra Lang or his family went ahead and paid for that outstanding balance, so mainly Bob can get home because he does have a severe heart condition.
And how much was the outstanding balance?
$3,802.
$3,802 plus $407.
Plus the $407.12 for the airfare.
So, $4,207. They said it was free. So far, the only person that got a free trip was you.
No, not quite. Not quite. I have so far, the flight tickets came out to about $7,000. The next step was when Bob and I were looking at the brochure. We were going to stay at the Resort Nuevo Vallarta. That was the original reservations. That's when it included the unlimited meals, snacks, theme nights, you know, domestic and imported drinks, everything. Well, Bob and I were looking at all the pictures, and we thought, oh, this hotel looks nice. We then called, again, Alaska Airlines on August 31st and changed hotels. We missed the small print that says you're all-inclusive. It did not have all-inclusive on it.